Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of GIC TV Presents here on the GIC.org. My name is Bernard Alvarez, and I am the Empowerment Director for the Global Illumination Council, better known as the GIC.org. Over the last several weeks, we have been bringing you some very interesting discussions with some very amazing people that have been really doing their best to work with our community. And what I mean by community, I mean our global community, the global community that is doing, there are so many of us out there that are trying to do our part in helping the, for lack of a better term, evolutionary ascension, whatever you wish to call it, the process that is happening on this planet. And we're very grateful today to be joined by another organization, and today a spokesperson for the organization. Collective Evolution will be joining us in just a moment. But before I bring, Joe Martino is going to be joining us in just a moment. But before I bring him on, I just want to tell you a little bit, and maybe perhaps remind you about the Collective Evolution documentaries. For those of you that don't know, I'm sure you may have seen part 1 and part 2 already on our Consciousness Cinema. We do have it embedded over there as well. I know that for those of you that don't remember, we do have the Collective Evolution Bridge group here that I know that many of you are a part of. Joe has, Joe and the Collective Evolution team have been great friends with the GIC now for quite a while. We really support their work. They support our work. And, you know, I think that's a very good thing for all of us to be doing, is to working with as many other organizations, working with as many other people. And the thing I love the most is the title of the organization, Collective Evolution. It's about all of us. There is no just one person, no one thing, no one path, and no one way. Anyways, without further ado, I want to welcome Joe Martino. He has, as you know, he is a documentary filmmaker and one of the founding members. Let's welcome Joe Martino to the show today. Well, hello there, Joe. How are you today? Sorry about that little electrical glitch, but we're glad we got you back real quick.
Yeah, no problem. I was wondering what happened, but seems like timing, as you were saying, for those brownouts are always the same.
It seems to be. You know, we had a guest on last week. He said they know what you're doing and they're blocking you. I'm like, well, I don't want to go there, but who knows? Anyway, without further ado, welcome to the show. And Joe, why don't you let us know where are you at right now? I know we let everybody know that you're on a road trip and you are filming footage for the new Collective Evolution 3 documentary. So whereabouts are you at right now?
We're actually in Fort St. John, British Columbia, which is about 18 hours north of Vancouver. So it's pretty up high there in British Columbia.
Wow. You were saying it's close to the Yukon or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's about 5 hours or so. So it's not that far from one of those places that like really not many people really visit up there in the Yukon.
Very cool. I can't help it. I don't want to sound like a tourist or anything, but is it cooler up there right now than it is down here in North America, the rest of North America?
Well, yeah. I mean, the highs don't get quite as high. I mean, I also feel like it's not quite as humid. It's a little bit of a different kind of hot here. But you know, for the most part, it's like today. The past couple of days has been a little bit colder. But,
nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. So, Joe, this is your first time for yourself and Collective Evolution to come on the GIC TV program. Why don't you remind our listeners and our friends and your fans and whatnot a little bit about the work of Collective Evolution up until this point?
Okay, well, I mean, we started off just wanting to have some outlet to share not only our experiences, but, you know, experiences and information we were gathering and others were gathering about kind of this shift, this awakening that's going on across the planet. And what happened was we got together and we said, let's create a website. Let's start creating something where we can put up material daily and start sharing it out to the world. So Collective Evolution was born. Why the name Collective Evolution? Well, we realized it was something that the whole planet was going through. Collectively, we're all experiencing it. And it's an evolution, not in the physical evolution sense of how we talk about Darwinism and stuff, but more so an evolution of consciousness. The way we think, the way we perceive the world, the way we experience the world is actually shifting. And we wanted to share that kind of message. We wanted to offer a bit of a support system for others who are going through it, because we realized that even in our own lives, our own journey through it, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there, and it was hard to really connect with others. And because even, you know, in cities and different towns and all this sort of stuff, you find that sometimes people are few and far between who are going through similar stuff. I mean, that was 3 years ago. Things now have really picked up in terms of how much people are actually starting to feel it, but at the time it just felt right to do that. So since then, we created the website. We, you know, been doing what we've been doing through Facebook and all that sort of stuff to share the message and connect with people and all that. We started creating documentaries. So we created our first one, I think we released it in January of 2011, and then about 7 or 8 months later, we released our second one, which was Collective Evolution 2, The Human Experience. That was released in September of 2011. And we're now working on our third feature documentary, which is called Collective Evolution 3, The Shift, which is focusing on just the shift in consciousness, what it's all about, and also how we can start to bring in solutions and how we can start to bring in steps to move things forward. So it's a really practical documentary. Like, I'm pretty excited about how it's coming together so far, the interviews and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I just have to mention, I think that's why I feel such a connection with you guys. When we started the GIC, that was kind of our intention as well. We wanted to create a space for people that are going through this shift of consciousness, and have a community and or people that are going through the same experiences. And we can't help but want to reach out to others and let them know they're not alone. You know, and I think that's so important, the work that you're doing, and the documentaries themselves have just been amazing. I know I've watched Collective Evolution Part 2 at least 6 or 7 times personally, and it's definitely my definitely on what am I going to do tonight? Oh, I think I'll watch this documentary. But thank you so much for that, and let's talk a little bit about this this shift that's happening. As you said, for me as well, I feel it's very important that we are starting to, it's kind of a process. For me, it's a process. We first get that little inkling of awakening, then we get the the outrage and, oh my gosh, look what they're doing to our planet. Look at what they're doing to our lives, etc. And then we start to kind of ground ourselves, and we start thinking about, well, what can I do about it, and what can I do to make this place make this world a better world. So I love this concept and this focus on solutions right now, and I think that's basically where the shift is at. But tell me in your own words what this shift is. Is it, we get lots of people that think it's this. It's a political uprising. Then we have the other extreme paradigm that it's a spiritual ascension process. And I mean, I'm the kind of guy that probably thinks it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little bit of us shaking off the shackles of, whatever it is that this paradigm has created for us, as well as an intuitive awakening. But could you share with us your interpretation and your definition of what this particular shift is that's happening? And just to make it more interesting, do you feel it goes in with all the prophecies that have been said?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Actually, this topic has come up a lot lately, and I shared a little video about it recently, and just exactly about what you said about how there's the kind of the political side and there's the spiritual side, and they seem to be a bit of a divide with one another, and it's a bit challenging because there are certain things that either side will say that seems to be ticking off the other side, and it's like, we're really trying to come together here, yet we're picking little words that we don't like the other person saying and saying, well, I don't want to agree with what you're saying because of that or this, that, or whatever. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting how the divide is being created. But basically what I see the shift as is we're conscious beings. We're conscious beings having a human experience. We can see that because we are now really starting to understand, and even quantum physics is starting to really look at, well, it has been for a long time, the interconnectedness that exists between us and in all things, and that everything is consciousness. And basically what's happening is our consciousness plays a huge role in defining what our external world looks like. Meaning, whatever we are choosing to experience consciously as a collective, but also as individuals, plays out in the external world in how things will look, how things are set up, how things will play out amongst, global politics, the economies, all that sort of stuff. And what's happening is our consciousness is shifting from a survival mode type consciousness where we're playing out, I guess what you can call a darker. I mean, everything is light anyway, so there really isn't anything. There is no darkness. It's just varying degrees of light. So what's happening is we're moving from that kind of darker experience into a much lighter experience where we're actually stepping more so into our natural state. And I don't mean natural state as in the sense of there is a natural state for humans, but I mean a natural state in it is more within our nature to be peaceful, to work together, to actually see each other as brothers and sisters and not see each other as a separate enemy we need to compete against and all that sort of stuff. The consciousness is shifting to move back into that understanding because we got lost for a little while in what was being created and all the sort of stuff that's been happening on the planet to create separation. Yeah. And as you mentioned with the prophecies, they've talked about this for a long time. I mean, humanity is in an evolutionary process. That's the only reason why we're on the planet, is to evolve as conscious beings. And so the prophecies and all that sort of stuff talked about how there was this time coming close to 2012 where things were going to change. Now, prophecies and all that sort of stuff, it's very difficult to say that they're going to be accurate or not, because really a prophecy is you're looking at a future moment in a particular moment. So in that moment, as you're looking forward, you're seeing a particular outcome. But the moment you start moving forward into new moments, meaning the moment time continues to move, you're actually changing the outcome, because now, as conscious beings and as the planet experiencing the way it is, things are changing all the time. Nothing is ever on a linear path. Yeah. So yeah, there may have been a lot of prophecies and all that sort of stuff about certain dates or how things might be destroyed or how things, might all of a sudden just shift one day and it's all different. But really, we need to kind of take it into perspective and understand that as we move forward on this non-linear path, we are choosing different timelines that collectively we will experience. So is it that on December 21st, 2012, the world will end? No. Is it that all of a sudden everything will shift and we will be in a completely different world? No, it's more so that in and around that time, there's going to be energetic changes that are going to be happening, and we can see this by measuring, even scientifically, the pulse of the Earth. The actual vibration of the Earth is changing. It is speeding up. What they measured in Schumann's, and it's based on a measurement of hertz, and it's actually speeding up. And so we can see that happening, and that's being assisted by radiation from the sun that's changing, through the solar flares, through the solar storms, but also how the different planets are aligning to create a different energetic pattern. And that's affecting the Earth, that's affecting our consciousness, that's affecting our physical bodies. So this shift is really basically a change that is occurring kind of in a conscious sense, and a lot of times at the mind level we don't quite see it because the mind is a little bit limited to being able to understand and wrap our heads around that aspect of things. Right. So when we see the political stuff happening, or when we see the spiritual stuff happening, it's really the same awakening. Those people are all being fueled by the same conscious shift. The difference is some people are taking one path and some people are taking another path. No path is more right or wrong. You could argue that some people are a little bit more in touch with themselves and others are just a little bit more experiencing, as you mentioned, the figuring out what's wrong with the world and all that sort of stuff. But I truly see that in the end, a lot of us will become more in touch with ourselves, our true nature, and move beyond what the mind is limited to and start seeing, hey, yeah, there's actually more to this, and it's not just that there's more to this world and the system and all that sort of stuff, but there's more to who we actually are. And when you truly understand who you actually are as a being, the world that opens up is completely different. It is an entirely different experience to see it from the standpoint of you being an observer, having the experience through the physical body, versus you being fully identified with your mind, with your body. Because that's where the survival mode comes in. That's where you have all this fear of survival and needing to maintain, your safety on the planet, basically.
Beautifully said. Thank you. That was a wonderful definition and well, actually a good lesson for a lot of us and a good reminder for those of us that are already on the path. I can't help but touch on the beginning of what you said, where we have certain, oh, let's say certain, like you said, certain words that say, oh, I'm not going to agree with that word, or I'm not going to agree with that word. And we had happened to have had a conversation about this Monday on the radio show. And I think it's a part of the process, of the shifting process, where we're no longer using that outmoded part of us, but sometimes every once in a while it'll come up and it'll kind of be like, hey, well, what about me? Didn't you used to think this? You know, and we get caught up in that old game, that old how shall I say that? Well, it's an old game. It's an old game of division, an old game of left versus right, right versus wrong. You know, Republican, Democrat, black, white, whatever it is that you want to call it. But I think that is a process of the shift, is learning to recognize those behaviors that are no longer appropriate for this new, I hate to use the word new world because then people call it new world order, but let's call it the new paradigm, or you know, after the shift occurs, so to speak. I'd like to think that once we do, well, as we are progressing and as we are evolving, we are going to lay a foundation for a more unified world. And what I mean by unified, I mean more unified, cooperative, love-based versus fear-based, and personal empowerment-based, which is, you know, the ability that for all human beings to be able to create a beautiful world and environment around them. And I would like to think that as we move into that and become closer aligned with that vibration that is really occurring to all of us, and it is, I see it everywhere from the Lightworker movement to the Occupy movement, from the Starseed movement to the Truth movement. You know, you're seeing it all coming up and bubbling up to the surface. And it really is all about creating, you know, creating a better world and empowering oneself. Are there any other, well, let's say, let me ask you, Joe, for, let's say maybe for you personally, or maybe what you have experienced with others, are there any specific, maybe psychological or behavioral attributes that can kind of signify that someone is going through the shift? Because I have a good example. I have a young person that just wrote me this afternoon asking, I think I'm having an awakening. How do I know? Yeah. And I think that's a good place to start. You know, how do you know you're having an awakening?
Well, I mean, and it's kind of a little bit what you touched on when you were talking about the Occupy movement, the Truth movement, the star seeds, you know, the conscious, the spirituality. It's just understanding that what everybody is going through is the same awakening. And the awakening can feel different for each person, and it can show up in different, you know, forms, basically. What I find is sometimes we try to really put, I guess, a definition almost, or an expectation on how things could be, because I mean, I've seen people in my journey of 3 years that you really wouldn't expect maybe would awaken, so to speak, and the way it went about for them was totally different from, say, somebody else. And somebody may talk about, oh, here's all the symptoms that I'm having of awakening, but this person would be like, well, I'm not really feeling that. I'm just more so feeling that I don't want to do this anymore. You know, that this just doesn't resonate with me. So I really think it's one of those things where, depending on who the person is, depending on how things are playing out, you will start to feel different experiences. What I find is that the awakening in the end is everybody is feeling inside that what they're experiencing just does not resonate. Now, what does resonate mean? Within you look at the experience, you look at what we're doing, and you're just going, I just don't want to be a part of this. And it's not even that you're judging it and saying this is crap and this is crap and this is enslavement and this is, you know, terrible, these evil people are doing this. Because really, none of it is evil, none of it is terrible. It's just an experience, right? And so it's that feeling within you that just says, I want to opt out. I don't want to do this anymore. And that, I think, is the feeling and the symptom that is pretty much the most common thing throughout all the people that are waking up. Some people may be experiencing like things going on with the physical body, where all of a sudden they're having different pains, they're having headaches, they're having, you know, lightheadedness, all this sort of stuff. I mean, some people are having different visions, different dreams, all this sort of stuff. It really depends on the person. But I think at the end of the day, what we just all have to be careful of, not even be careful, but just be aware of and observe, is that there are different boxes that inevitably the mind wants to jump back into. Meaning, so here we are, we start to awaken, but then we want to jump into another box of, this is my awakening, this is what's happening to me, I'm now this spiritual being, and I need to start talking a different way, I need to start acting a different way, I need to start chasing, positivity and chasing, excitement and happiness and all this sort of stuff. And what it really is the mind is now wanting to say, okay, I got out of my old understanding of things, and instead of being open and exploring in an open standpoint, I create a new identity, or I create a new way of being. Mm-hmm. Because that's what I think is a thing that the mind just wants to do, because it wants to hold on to something. Because even when we talk a lot about solutions and wanting to move forward and how we're going to make this awakening and this shift happen, people are always saying, okay, so what's the solution? What's the plan? What is the world going to look like? But that's not how it's going to be, because that's how this system was built. This system was built upon, here's what it is, here's the model, train everybody to do it. Why not say, we don't want to play with this model anymore? That's clear. Everybody doesn't want to play with this model. So instead of saying, all right, now we're going to create this model, why don't we start with just basic understandings, which means we all understand that we want to be more in a community sense of we're helping each other out, we're not competing with each other, we're not fighting with each other, there's no survival mode, there's all this stuff. We understand that there are basic needs on the planet. So we cover that basic stuff and then say, all right, what do we want to create? And we start to create from that standpoint. We start to say, okay, let's bring out these technologies that have been hidden forever and let's start implementing them. We realize that we really don't need to be paying for them and all these resources and all this stuff, because all these resources are everybody's anyway. There's no need for a trade, a barter, or anything like that. These resources are for everybody. Yeah. So we start to share it. We start to build. So I think it's like just one of those things in general where we just have to just watch as we're moving forward to stay unidentified with the next, I guess, thing that we're going to be, or the next identity of who we are, and just let everything flow and be open.
I really like that, Joe. The whole idea of the new paradigm is no paradigm.
That's right.
The new paradigm is your consciousness, whatever it is that you wake up to that day, what you're feeling, what you're contributing, and what you can do to help create community and empower yourself as a person. Absolutely. We have a question on the chat. Someone is asking if you are going to create a new trailer for CE3 anytime soon.
It's funny. I was actually thinking about while we're gathering some of these interviews, because the last interview we had with Rob and the Page family, there were some moments that were just unbelievably powerful. There's some of the words that came out, and I was just thinking to myself, like, if we gather a few of those from some of the interviews that we got coming up, and we just piece it together and do a little trailer, it would be nice, because it would give a little bit more of a I guess a teaser, so to speak, of what's to come from the film, who might be involved in it, all that sort of stuff. So I can't say that it's 100% going to happen, but it may come about sometime soon, maybe a month or so. Okay,
good. And speaking of CE3, let's talk more. About halfway through with the show. So let's talk a little bit about CE3. I know you talked a little bit about solutions. Is there anything in detail that you can share with everybody today, as far as maybe some of the topics that you're interviewing, some of the people you're interviewing, and what is the synopsis of what is your vision for a synopsis of the documentary?
Well, the documentary is, what we've realized, and I guess this is part of our own journey, right? And this is the truth of the matter, is just realizing that as you're moving along in your own journey, things are always going to change and keep opening up. And what we've realized is that we want to come across with this documentary in a way that really is going to speak to as much people as we can. And it's not that we're going to trying to include absolutely everybody in the sense that we need to unite everybody who will never believe in this stuff in the first place, but more so just that we want to speak to everybody, because we know that a lot of this stuff does apply to a bunch of different people. And some of our old work, the way it came across, it was harder for some people to grasp and all this sort of stuff, because we were coming from a different approach, basically. So the Collective Evolution 3, the shift, the idea is we want to talk about the shift. We want to talk about what's happening with the changes that are going on the planet. We wanted to do it from a standpoint that was unbiased. We wanted to do it from a standpoint that would include lots of people's opinions or their viewpoints from around the movement, so to speak. Whether it's somebody like Luke Rudowski from the Truth Movement side of things, I don't want to identify anybody in anything, but he's more in the the exposing the political side.
Yeah.
To people like, for example, Miriam Delicato, who is on the side of with the more conscious side, or whatever you want to call it. Again, I don't want to label these people in anything, but just that's kind of more in alignment with the work that they're doing.
Right.
But to get all their different opinions and to show that really they're all waking up to the same thing. All of us are waking up to the exact same thing. And this shift is what is happening on the planet right now. So whether it's, like we were talking about before, the Occupy movements, the truth movements, the this movement, whatever movement it is, it's all the same shift. And we want to see that. We want to show that. And we want to understand that there is really no gap. Yes, some of us have started to identify with certain things a little bit. We've started to take on new identities. We've started to take some of the information and twist it a little bit to put our own filters on it. But when we take all of that away and we really look at the basic foundations of what's happening here, we are starting to see through what we're doing here, and we want changes. That's the bare bones of it, right? So we wanted to unite people with that. And then from there forward, we wanted to start showing a couple of things. We wanted to start showing the solutions that are available, but also the solutions that people are doing right now. Meaning there are plenty of things that could end the way we are doing things that are in use right now. And the reason why we wanted to show that is because a lot of people see a bit of a disconnect. Okay, we're in this world now, but how are we going to get to this new paradigm or this new way of being? Is there going to be a transition? How are you going to make it all happen? What's it going to look like? Well, nobody can truly say what the end result will look like, and nobody can truly say what the whole transition will look like. However, we can come together and start saying, listen, we want to start opting out of this. Here's some ways we can start opting out of it. Here's the people that are already doing it. There's no need to have fear about this transition because it can be done. It's already happening. People have been doing this stuff for 25, 30, sometimes 50 years. So we wanted to start showing that. And then what we wanted to do is start showing the real big stuff, meaning the stuff that it's like these types of technologies which are hidden right now, which are not quite being used as much right now because they're a little bit underdeveloped. A lot of these people have to stay hidden. A lot of these people can't really, get funding for it because it's really, really hush-hush. We want to start showing some of that because really that's the stuff that's going to be implemented on a global scale once we're moving through this transition. So the transition stuff, so that we can start moving forward, we can actually start taking steps now. And then the big stuff where once we start coming together, once we start saying, here's what we're going to start putting in place, start creating and this, that, whatever, we wanted to show that too, so that there's a basically a picture for people to understand that this is totally possible and there's no need to fear it. And really the only thing that is fearing it is this fear of the unknown, which comes from the mind anyway, which we're moving beyond in the first place. So that's kind of, I guess, what we want to do with CE3, the shift.
I like that. I like it a lot. And I love what you're saying about these solutions that are hidden or these, well, even like energy models that are being hidden or whatnot. It was funny because somebody had asked me yesterday or the day before, well, what are we going to do about the infrastructure? What are we going to do about the infrastructure? The government has to rebuild the infrastructure. Or what are we going to do about energy? Someone has to run the power plants or the grid or whatnot. And I couldn't help but think of, and don't laugh at me, guys. There's this reality show that I caught on Netflix, and I have to share this. It's called, what's it called? The Colony. The Colony. And The Colony, it's about these people that they throw together in a post-apocalyptic scenario, and everyone has to come up with a way to create energy and grow food and all of these things. And I couldn't help but think about that when somebody had asked me that question. I was like, well, who's going to run the grid? We are. You are. People who know how to, that know that technology are going to volunteer to do that for humanity. Who's going to grow our food? We are. People that know how to grow food are going to grow the food. Who's going to build our homes? We are. People that know how to build homes are gonna, are gonna do this. So I can't help but think of a little bit of voluntarism, if that's a word. Volunteering
Yeah.
is going to be an aspect of this particular thing, and I think that with all the technologies that are coming out, we're going to need people who are volunteering. And a good example. I'm a volunteer. You're a volunteer, Joe. Miriam Delicato is a volunteer. Anelia Benz is a volunteer. We don't make a living. Well, we barely make a living off what we do, but we do it because we're volunteering to do this for humanity. This is a part of our calling, and I can't help but feel that when it comes to the day-to-day, like I said, like the grid or the day-to-day infrastructure, that the same thing is going to eventually spill over into that. That we will have people that will volunteer and creating new energy solutions, building the machines that go with them. People that are going to volunteer to create a new power grid that is less harmful to the environment with the new technologies. And it's not about, and I get a lot of slack for being a volunteer and always having to ask for money. But I will say that I think it's not about capitalism and getting the highest paycheck when it comes to this new paradigm. It is going to be voluntary calling and a need to want to share these attributes, these skills, and these technologies with the rest of humanity to better humanity as a whole. And I can't help but wonder if maybe some of the people you've already spoken to or interviewed or whatnot has anybody, or do you know of anybody that has come forward to volunteer any of these new technologies and perhaps teach everybody else?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the way we do things now in general, it's like a lot of us are doing jobs, or a lot of us are doing things because we need the money to survive. The majority of us aren't truly passionate about what we're doing. Now, once you actually look at what we are doing and you start taking away the stuff that, I mean, not to judge it, but the stuff that's useless. I mean, we have 50,000 different people who make forks. We have 50,000 different people who make TVs and 50,000 different people who make chairs. And when you start taking the majority of it away, you realize that the way our system's set up right now is to create as many make-work projects as possible. Not only to keep people employed, but keep them enslaved. Because the idea is the more of them that are working and the more of them that are needing the money to survive and all that sort of stuff, it means they can't actually think or do or be a part of anything else, really. So you take away all the make-work projects and you realize that of all the stuff we have today, maybe 15 to 20% of it is actually useful and is actually something that humanity should continue doing. The rest of it is all either really harmful to the planet or something that is just completely overdone. There's too many multiples of it, all that sort of stuff. So now all of a sudden you have this huge surplus of people, and you have all these various things that need to be done, but nowhere near to the amount that we're doing it now. So if people need to volunteer to be a part of something, to be involved in technologies, to be involved in farming, and be involved in whatever it is that they're going to be doing, one, there's going to be a huge amount of people per little sector of jobs, or whatever you want to call it. They're not even really going to be jobs. They're just going to be activities we're going to be doing together. So you're not going to be having to work these huge long hours every single day, your whole life, on the same thing. Because there are people who are passionate about certain things. People don't usually get to do their passions because of the reality of the system we have. A lot of times it's just much harder. But yes, there are people that I've met, that I've talked to, that I've run into, that are doing things for free. Whether it is that they're growing food and they're teaching permaculture, or they're teaching, that type of stuff, or the people who are doing the energy stuff. Or if you look at YouTube, like, this is a perfect example. You go on YouTube, you can search how to do anything. And why do these people do it? These people are on here on YouTube taking their own time to create videos on how to do something, because they have the knowledge and they have the innate feeling within them to share it with others. I want to show you how to do this. I want to show you how to do this. And there's all these people who, from something that has a simple webcam and a simple microphone, to people who are doing it with really nice cameras and this, that, whatever. No matter what people have, they want to share it. They want to teach other people how to do things, and they want to come together as a community. YouTube, in that sense, can be looked like a community. Sure, there's all these different, uh, what do you call it, censoring and all that stuff that happens, but in the end, it really is a community of sharing a lot of stuff that's going on. And to me, that's just a perfect example of how, as we move forward, as we start doing things together, as we start coming together as a community, you're going to see people sharing their time, sharing this, sharing that, whatever. Because does it really feel, good within you that if all of your jobs were gone, if everything was you didn't need to do anything, you had no responsibility, that you'd sit and watch movies all day, or that you would sit and do, video games all day? No, because even you look at a lot of people now that don't have jobs, they're not doing that already. Some people do, but very few. And they're usually only doing that because they're either upset within themselves, or they just don't know what else to do because they feel limited to the point where I can't get involved in this because I don't have money. I can't get involved in this because I don't have the resources. But like, we've talked to people who, hey, let's set up a community. Let's set up a little bulletin board of, here's all the different projects that we can start doing. What are you passionate about? Go join that group of people in doing those projects. If we need to pull some money together to start getting some of the resources, let's do it, And that's what I think it's going to be in the transition sense, is people coming together to pool stuff together. And then in the kind of the new world or the new paradigm, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be people coming together and saying, all right, this is what I'm passionate about for this month. And then who knows, maybe next month I'll want to do something else. But that's true freedom. That's the ability to truly be able to say, I want to be a part of this. You know what? I'm done playing here. I want to go now be a part of this. And you're allowed to just freely move around and experience the planet and what it has to offer and use your creativity in the meantime, versus saying, well, let's just, create jobs that are fair and let's create an economy that is fair, when really you don't need any of that stuff anyway,
Absolutely. And I can relate to that very, very much, especially with the Occupy movement and my involvement in that. I see, in Occupy we have something called the working group. And the working group paradigm is basically, it's created through the General Assembly, and then people volunteer, oh, I want to be a part of the People's Kitchen and feed the homeless. I want to be a part of the media team and work on the internet. I want to be a part of the sustainability group and start a community garden. And I think that's a really good, it's a great place to start, as far as the foundations that have been laid out. A lot of people, whether you like Occupy or not, it doesn't really matter to me, because I think that it's a really nice foundation as far as having an alternative community and or form of government. It truly is a real democracy when you see what happens and goes on in these meetings and what happens in the General Assemblies and how everything is worked out. I myself, I see that I agree with you, and that's the reason why I brought it up. I see myself quitting, one working group to go work in this other working group, or I see myself getting tired of facilitating and I just want to focus on the kitchen, and cook, because I love to cook. That's my thing. I love to cook, so I'm the one who does a lot of the cooking. So, and I think that's a great example for everybody to understand that, as we are moving in this new paradigm, and as we're moving, I love what Joe said, that it is about feeling what your inner guidance is telling you, and I think that's an aspect that a lot of us seem to forget. It's not only about the 3D paradigm; it's about the internal paradigm, and that is changing also. And the rules and the barriers that we, or the limits, is a better term, that we are creating for ourselves, or have been taught to create for ourselves, is going out the window. A good example. I don't know if you've gone through it in your young life, Joe, but I know for me, when I gave up my career to do what I'm doing now with the GIC, it was unheard of. It was like, oh, you're 30 something and you're quitting your career already? Yes, I don't want to do this anymore. So as we move into this new paradigm, I think that freedom of expression really needs to be embraced, and that calling to want to help others, identify what it is that you want to do at this moment and move on with that. And we've spoken a lot about the physicalness of the shift. Can you, and I've just touched on a little bit on the psychological, emotional, can you tell us a little bit of what you see is happening with the shift internally? Are we becoming more intuitive? Are we becoming Are we loosening the bonds of the ego? Are we loosening the bonds of you know, your mommy said you have to do this, your teacher said you have to do this. Do you see that also seem to be slipping by the wayside as well?
Absolutely. I mean, what is fueling the external changes that we're seeing are the internal changes. Because, and again, we look at quantum physics to understand this from a mind level, because oftentimes our intuition, we may not have good in touch with it. So some of us make the connection through the science side. And the science side is showing that what happens inside here, what happens inside our consciousness, not just from the mind, but our actual consciousness, is what is creating the changes in the external world. We can see that. And so the internal stuff, truly, if you want to look at it, not to say that it's more important, but it is kind of more important because it is what is fueling all of this stuff. The people that don't even agree with the internal shifts are only having their ability to be able to see through the systems, see through the structures, due to the fact that things are lightening up on the internal side within them. And it's breaking down veils of programming that is saying, you can't see this, you can't see this, you can't see this. And so as those blinders come off, they're able to see that, and that's all due to internal work that is happening. It's not just a reprogramming of the mind. It's actually a release of the power of the mind and opening up of the intuition of the true nature of yourself from inside, whether we can feel it or not. What I see happening as we move forward is, yeah, more and more of us will get in touch with that internal side of it, and more of us will feel, hey, you know, I can now see this a little bit differently. I don't have to follow those rules that I've held on to so much, because really those rules, those limitations, those guidelines, those definitions only exist within the mind. And the moment you start realizing you're not the mind, you're not the stories of the mind, and you're not limited to the mind, all of a sudden you see this, you feel this sense of freedom. Like, so you're telling me I don't have to do all of this stuff that was said that I have to do. I don't have to see this experience as bad. I don't have to see this person as a bad person because of what they're doing. And all of that was just a belief system that I was subconsciously operating off of. That's a big piece of freedom to realize something like that, and to now all of a sudden see everything from a neutral standpoint. And this just came up earlier where, you know, we're talking about neutrality, and people think that it means, oh, well, you're kind of going to just sit back and not do anything, or neutrality means that we will not care about anything, we'll all be the same robot or whatever. No, it's more so like, imagine having the infinite ability to be able to create and not look at anything as this is the best solution, this is the worst solution, this is right, this is wrong, this person's bad, this person's good, but instead being able to say, all right, I'm here as an observer, I can experience whatever I want. And then you go and you experience it. And if you want to activate some happiness for a little while, you activate the happiness and you feel it, but you don't get attached to it. If you want to activate the anger or the sadness, you feel the anger and the sadness, but you don't get attached to it. And that's the difference, is you're not getting attached to an identity. You're not getting attached to your emotions. You're not getting attached to that part of you that says, do this, do this, do this, do this. You are no longer a slave to those thoughts, a slave to those emotions and those belief systems. Instead, you may temporarily experience them as you choose.
Thank you very, very much. On a personal level, I can relate to many of the things you just said. It's funny how, you know, things happen in life. I mean, life happens.
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had I'm going to laugh a little bit because it's funny. Some woman crashed into the back of our house, destroying our steps, and she almost crashed into the wall. 2 days later, we had the derecha storm that knocked out power for the entire region, and we didn't know what was happening. And someone said to me, "Oh God, you have so much drama in your life. You're so dramatic." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, it happened. It's life. You know, it just happened, and I can't help but apply that through intention. You know, if you get involved in an organization, you're going to go into that. Like you said, you're going to go into it. You're going to have the ups, the downs, the happy, the sad. If you go into a relationship, the same thing will happen. If you go into a new career, that's going to happen. If you get involved in the peace movement, that's going to happen. If you get involved in farming or a community garden, you know, everything is going to have life. It's just, it's called life. And I think it's very important that people understand that, you know, if we remain centered in our truth, and without attachment, not only without attachment to outcome, but without identifying, and I don't mean this in a cold way at all. I mean it the way that Joe just said, that we are just seeing that we are experiencing our lives and not taking it personal. I think is a good way of saying it. We don't take it so personally. It is what it is. We go experience it. We are human beings, as we say. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and to be able to look at the world like that as an observer and as a intentional participant in specific experiences, because we've chosen to experience those moments. It makes a big difference than for what we see a lot right now, especially in mainstream media, is the whole victim. Oh, why me? And this is happening to me, and my life is full of drama and whatnot. No, it's not. It's a wonderful journey that we're going through, and we're really enjoying every experience as it happens. And again, not identifying with it is a big, very big, important gesture to make in your own life. Absolutely.
And just to add, the truth of it is that as you start to not identify it and start to actually move beyond those triggers of this happens, I get angry. This happens, I get sad. This happens, I am happy. As you release all those triggers and those belief systems, what you actually start to see is all of those ups and downs start to actually diminish. And what you actually start to experience is something a lot more steady, where you can choose, okay, let's experience this, and okay, let's experience that, versus saying, whatever situation happens, there's going to be ups and downs and this, that, whatever. You're freeing yourself from being triggered by everything that happens in life, right? So the actual experiences of all the waves really start to calm down. Like, for example, you can have something, I can share from my own experience, I can have something in the past where it could play out and it means I need to be sad. And I would go into a sad state for, life says I should be in a sad state for a couple of weeks because that's what happened and I got to feel that way. The same thing happens now that, I've done a lot of changes within myself and all that sort of stuff, and there is no sadness. Instead, you go, okay, that took place, and you just move forward, right? And you see it and you go, okay, well, is there something for me to lesson that I need to learn from this? Is there something I need to clear within myself, or is there something that's driving me that this experience is allowing me to see? No? Okay, and guess what? It probably won't even happen again because you don't need that experience.
Absolutely. We have several questions on the chat room I'm seeing here. The first question that, well, I am awake now, is asking, I love that, I am awake now, thank you. Is Franco De Nicola going to be in the new movie?
Yes, we will be interviewing him in the movie, yeah.
There you go. And one last one from there. Is there any specific release date? Yes, no, maybe?
We initially, I can tell you what we initially were projecting is we wanted to get it done before the end of 2012. We're trying to just go with the flow, really. We want to get the people we want to get involved in it, however long that's going to take. We want to get the stuff put together as best we can, and I mean, we've had the resources to make this thing come together really nicely, and everything has been flowing unbelievably in the past about month and a half or two to make this stuff happen. So it could fly along, or there could be some, all right, we need to shift focus for a month or two. We'll see what happens, but I would say, I mean, the feeling that I have right now, I would say early 2013. If it comes out in 2012, it does, but it may come out in 2013 sometime. But again, it could change. Won't be too long though.
Right. Well, we might be in the fifth dimension by then. Okay.
Still going to be a lot to do.
Speaking of which, we do have a question. What are your thoughts on the shift? This idea of shifting into a higher dimensional consciousness. I hear a lot of things, and for me personally, for me, the whole 3D means locked in, three concepts, three ideas, three ways of looking at things. For me, I like to think I'm living already in the fourth dimension because I move beyond the confines of what my senses are giving me. But what do you think, Joe? What are your ideas and thoughts on this move into the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension as far as the shift is concerned?
imagine it as a radio frequency, so to speak. You have different bands of frequency that create different experiences, that create different levels of consciousness, so to speak. Not that any level is better or you know, I would just say that each level is different and each level provides a different experience. We've been playing in the 3D level of consciousness, so that's a certain radio frequency, so to speak, that creates a certain physical experience, that creates a certain planetary experience, certain collective experience. You're open to certain emotions and certain densities that you wouldn't necessarily be open to in a higher level of consciousness or a different band of frequency, because now your lowest band of frequency within that next level doesn't include what we've experienced here before. So as we are shifting and releasing and moving up into different levels of frequency, yes, there are certain experiences that will drop off that we no longer need to experience and feel. And there are new ones, a whole new level of growth, a whole new level of evolution that will come with the new frequencies that are coming in. So again, I find what happens is we try and think, well, everything is just going to be like, you know, complete bliss as we move forward. It's more so you're going to open up a new level of experience, and yes, you're going to feel that peace and everything within yourself, but it's just like opening up a new playground, so to speak, at a different level of frequency.
Yeah, yeah. I have to agree with you 100%, definitely, absolutely. A great answer, though, a great question, and we're running out of time, and I want to put in some announcements before we go. But I think we covered this already, but this is a great way to kind of wrap up this particular discussion on the shift. Is what do you feel might be any noticeable occurrences when the shift occurs?
The shift is occurring right now.
That's what I was going to think, yeah.
Yeah, it's really the kind of thing. I mean, it's been happening for quite some time. It's not shown itself quite as much in previous years, simply because there was less people that were feeling it and experiencing it within themselves. But a lot of the stuff we're seeing in our external world, so economy, political stuff, even wars, if you want to go that far, all that sort of stuff is all a part of the changes and the shifting and the stuff that's going on. If you were to kind of talk about the shift, you may want to use the word instability, for example. Now, it's not instability in a way to be fearful, but instability in the sense of when you're moving from what you thought was one foundation, and as you are transitioning, and you are not moving to another foundation, but instead you are moving along a path of flowing like a river, which is how we're starting to actually experience, that's going to feel unstable for a little while, because the mind and what's been driving us for such a long time is used to the foundation, is used to the steadiness. And so as you start coming into your being and coming into allowing things to flow, you see all this instability in the world, because not only are we coming out of our old paradigms, our old way of seeing things and our old consciousness, but we're actually seeing that transform itself into this external world also needs to change. And people are feeling different things, and there's different energies coming in, and there's all this different stuff going on, which is creating a lot of instabilities in the external world, to allow people to look at it and say, I need to look within even more to see, you know, how to keep moving forward and how to evolve. Everything that's happening in the external is a result of the internal, but it also allows us to truly look within even more, because that's what our means of experience is based around. We're looking at the external world and saying, this is how we're growing, this is how we're learning, this is how we're moving forward. So in terms of occurrences, you'll just see a lot more just instability and stuff like that throughout the world. Different events may occur, things, all that will be what the collective needs to experience. Yeah. I hope that was brief enough so you can get in your announcements.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, don't forget, we can go over time if I need to.
Oh, no problem. Cool.
But thank you very much. That's a perfect example and definition of what to expect. I agree with you completely, and I thank you so much. Don't forget, everybody, that the collective evolution. Well, first of all, before we even go into announcements, tell everybody a little bit about your road trip and where you're headed next.
We're actually headed down south in BC, and we're going to be stopping in Vancouver, all those different areas. We're also going to be going into Victoria, and then after that, we're going to be heading down into California. Nice. Through the Seattle and all that sort of stuff, into California, down into Arizona, and then over to New Mexico. That's kind of the next, I guess, leg of it, if you want to call it that.
Great. Yeah. Well, have a very, very safe journey, Joe. Thank you very, very much. Cool. I think you're going to be meeting some wonderful, amazing people, I'm sure, and speaking with so many people along the way that they're going to help us by you sharing the information you get. I
Absolutely, it's
look
been
forward to it. I look forward to the new movie. Um, for those of us that want to help you, because we're all always trying to help each other. Are you guys still accepting any kind of help or whatever as far as funding for the project?
sure. I mean, funding also will always go to the continuance of both of our films and projects and all that sort of stuff, but also the website and all that sort of stuff. And that can be done just through collectiveevolution.com. There's a tab that says donate. If you feel inspired to do that, by all means. If you also have skills or something you wish that to add to the group, by all means contact us and say, hey, I can do animation, or I can help you
Right.
guys out with spreading the word, or whatever it may be.
That's great. That's great. So that's the website address.
www.collective-evolution.com.
www.collective-evolution.com. Great. Thank you very much. And for those of you, Joe, hang on, because we're going to talk for a minute afterward. But I just want to put out a couple evolutions, a couple announcements, everybody. I just want to let you know that first of all, I just want to thank our dear friend Joe Martino for joining us, and to the whole Collective Evolution team. They are all of us. They are friends to all of us at the GIC, and we support their work 100% and everything that they're doing. So by all means, if you can help them out, please do. As well, you know that the GIC.org is also funded by you. I like to think of us as the PBS for alternative media. So if you could, if you are inspired to help us as well, please go to the GIC.org and just click on the donate tab. I think there's a big old blue donate button on the right there. But it helps to, and this is actually a manifestation of your donations. This live stream show. So this goes to show you what your donations are doing, and I look forward to expanding the GIC even more, so we can offer more to many more people. As well, I want to let you know that next week on GIC TV, right here, same time, same place, it's not confirmed, but it's pretty close, 99%. We're going to be speaking with Inelia Benz. She is a favorite of myself. She is a member of the GIC, has been a long-time member. She's been a friend to me for years, and she's been a friend to all of us around the world now for about a year now, since she made it. I guess her name got big during her interview with Bill Ryan and Project Avalon. But she's a wonderful lady. If you guys don't know who she is, please look her up. We also have a bridge group with Inelia Benz, Ascension 101, here on the GIC.org. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more as well, her website is Ascension 101. And let me not forget, there is also a Collective Evolution bridge group here on the GIC.org, where you can get the headlines of their latest blogs right here, and then you can click and it'll take you right to their website. So make sure you check that out. Last but not least, I just want to remind everybody of our spiritual activist conference happening here in Roanoke, Virginia. It'll be on October 13th. So far, it's going to be myself, the GIC team, Miriam Delicato, Roxy Lopez, and we have invited Joe and his friends, and we'll see what happens. But we've invited several other people to come and join us. And it's basically, we want to keep it formal, intimate, and just have everybody speak to each other, learn from one another. We didn't want to make it a, Richard Hoagland, or, no offense to him, but, like Richard Hoagland speaking for an hour talking about his new DVD or his new book or whatever. We wanted it to be a very intimate gathering. We're limiting it to 60 people. I'm not sure how many registration slots are left. But you might want to check it out. It's on the front page of the GIC.org. It's going to be fall in Virginia, so it's absolutely beautiful. You can take a ride along the Blue Ridge Parkway and just see the wonderful landscape, as well as meet the other GIC team and all of our friends that are going to be coming and joining with us. The registration is only $20. That's all we're asking. We just want to pay for the venue. We're not looking to make any money off of it. But again, and then this Monday, last announcement, I'm sorry, we will be having actually another conference. Organizers will be joining us on GIC Radio. The group from Portal to Ascension is having a 2-day conference in Los Angeles. And Miriam Delicato is going to be one of the featured speakers. And Ilya Nabutovsky, I hope I'm saying his name right, and Neil Guar will be on with us this Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on GIC Radio. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again to Joe Martino, the entire Collective Evolution team. We will go ahead and edit this and upload it to YouTube tomorrow in case any of your friends missed this archive. So we'll speak to you soon. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. One love.